Congressman Gregory Meeks is joining us. He's a Hillary Clinton supporter. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us.
Being with you, Wolf.
You think Hillary Clinton is going to really win overwhelmingly, I assume, in New York, based on all the polls, right?
But we're going to work hard. You know, polls are polls. I know this weekend I'll be back home working very hard. Hillary's working very hard, taking no vote for granted.
Is it possible he could stun her and you and win in New York State?
I don't think so. I think New York knows Hillary. She was our senator for 8 years. She did a great job. We reelected her overwhelmingly. In fact, we were happy that she went on to become the Secretary of State. Sad to lose a great senator.
The 1994 crime bill that was signed into law by her husband, President Bill Clinton, she says she's now sorry for the unintended consequences of that bill, how it's impacted minorities, African-American, especially African-American young men. Is that good enough? Because she didn't really say it was a mistake to vote. She didn't vote, but to support that legislation.
But Wolf, what you just said is exactly right. Only one of the two candidates had a vote. So if anybody should apologize...
Because he was a Congressman, Bernie Sanders.
That's right.
She was the first lady.
We should be talking to Bernie Sanders about apologizing for his vote. Hillary didn't have a vote.
You think Bernie Sanders should apologize for that vote?
I mean, they keep talking about 1994 as if it is Hillary's responsibility. It was clearly his responsibility. So if he thinks that was a bad vote, then it was bad judgment on his part. But let me say, we have to take the whole thing into context. What was taking place in 1994, the exorbitant crime rate, et cetera, that was going on. Now, we do see after bills, because I don't know any bill that comes out of Congress that's perfect, that sometimes there are unintended consequences. And what Hillary has said, there has been unintended consequences, and we've got to fix those. And that's why her very first statement, when she declared the run for presidency, was fixing the criminal justice system.
You heard Senator Sanders last night say her use of the word way back then, that word super predators. He said that, in referring to the crime bill, he said that was, in his words, obviously racist on her part, the use of that phrase, super predator. Do you agree?
Absolutely not. If you think about the Clintons and the Clinton administration in the 90s, there is a reason, Wolf, why 88% in 1996 voted for Bill Clinton. Now, if they thought he was a racist, don't tell me that you think that African Americans are not smart enough not to vote for someone who has their interests. There was a reason why Toni Morrison said that Bill Clinton was the first black president. So no way should you ever classify, or should anyone think, that the Clintons ever thought of African Americans in a racist manner. In fact of the matter is, at that same time period, if you look at the economics that Senator Sanders talks about all the time, that was the one time where the disparity, income disparity, was beginning to decline. Unemployment for African Americans were declining. So there is no way or no how, no stretch of the imagination that one could use to say that the Clintons were racist.
You're very passionate on this. Let's talk about guns in New York City. She made a controversial statement, and Senator Sanders really went after her. The other day she said most of the guns that are used in crimes and violence and killings in New York come from out of state. And the state that has the highest per capita number of those guns that end up committing crimes in New York come from Vermont. Was that an accurate statement from her perspective? Because there's been a lot of fact-checking, and only a tiny, tiny number of the guns used to commit violent crimes in New York come from Vermont.
Yeah, but as she said last night, and as your fact-checkers have said on CNN, most of the guns come from outside of New York, from states that are lax on gun control.
But there are a lot of other states that are lax, from your perspective, on gun control. Bigger states than Vermont.
That is true, and there's no way to directly track, etc. And your fact-checkers said they couldn't say true or false. Their answer was, which I agree on that, it's complicated. And so I think that's the best answer to that. It is clear, though, that if you look at the laws in Vermont with reference to guns as compared to the laws in New York State, there's substantial difference, and that Senator Sanders had voted to delay gun background checks, which is for the NRA. And the NRA praised him for sticking up for their biggest bill. He talked about 1988. Clearly he got elected in 1990. He must have given them what they needed, because they said their biggest bill was about to come out, and he voted to stop the background checks and the time limitations that they needed at that time.
Congressman, thank you.
Good to be with you, Will.
Thanks very much, Congressman Gregory Meeks.